And I guess for the Red Bull team, and as we've said, it's been a great season for you. It's been the best one to date, I would suggest. Are you feeling that sort of level of confidence in the cockpit as well? Is it just because it looks like you just get stronger and stronger every time you go out?
Yeah, no, I'm very confident now in terms of the team. We've done a lot of, our preparation going into events. There's no rewind button in this industry. When you're not prepared, you get exposed, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that every time we go out on track, we get the most information we can, and that's from the driver through the engineers through to the guys that do the tyres, their brakes, all the gearbox and engine guys. We've got so many people trying to maximise everything we can, and because we're up against fierce competition, and we need to make sure we do that. So the confidence from every different department and team personnel we have, of course, is lifting, because when they're putting the hard work in and the all-nighters, like we've had so many Grand Prix where the mechanics haven't even really gone back to the hotel, or they might have gone back and had a shower and they've come back just because they're working that hard. The car is very hard to work on. It's like a little aeroplane. It's very difficult to get bits on and off it, and it takes a long time. So tough for them, and when they work that hard and we get results, that gives confidence. So they'll continue to work like that. They won't work like that if we finish in 15th or 16th, and that's the problem where sometimes, I've been in situations in the past where motivation is very difficult because, you're going to get smashed the next day and people won't work that hard.
And you're right, it's such a mind game, isn't it, to have everybody focused. And Mark, I guess in terms of having, with Sebastian as your teammate for this season, has that changed the dynamic a little bit?
A little bit. I mean, he's definitely the strongest teammate I've ever had. He's very quick, and he's very complete, and he's doing a great job for. He's clearly the hottest young talent to come into Formula One for a long time, and he's. It's good for Red Bull because they've nurtured him from a young age, and he's now in a situation where he's in the biggest and the best Red Bull team that they have, and he's up against. Really an old Australian now who is also giving him a bit of a hard time, which is good for me. So that's, we after each race we shake each other's hand, and we've got good respect for each other because obviously we're trying to beat each other. But it is no more than that. We're there to do our job for each other, and he's in a different part of his career, and I'm trying to get results for Mark Webber. And but the dynamics are not greatly different from another teammate. It's always been competitive between the two drivers. Obviously, this year is even more so because obviously we're just closer.
Yeah. For those that have just joined us, I'm talking to Red Bull Formula One driver Mark Webber. Mark, one other question I wanted to ask you is just in relation to, I guess, for want of a better word, the civil war that goes on in Formula One now between the FIA and the teams. And we spoke a little bit about rules and how they change things, but there's some major things on the drawing board in terms of the rules for F1 as it goes forward, I guess, especially with the financial situation globally at this stage. There's a little bit of a stoush happening on that front too, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, it's a big fight, and it's real, and I don't know if going forward is the right word at the moment because I don't...
Could be reversed?
Yeah, I think we're in reverse at the moment. I think the teams obviously have taken a very strong position, and we know that the FIA, particularly obviously Max Mosley, very rarely backs off with his claims or statements. So we're now in a situation where there is a real threat of a breakaway, and there could be a chance of many teams not racing in Formula One next year. So because there's just so many issues which have been the undercurrent for this, leading into this sort of boiling point now, has been happening for quite a while. The budget cap is really just a bit of a smokescreen, really, for a lot of other things which the teams aren't happy about, trying to go forward with the sport. So clearly they need to control their costs. They know that, they're aware of that. But to go from running from 200 million euro to 40 million euro overnight is very, very difficult, and they want to chip that down, bleed it down gradually over the next 3 years, which is more stable for staff and people and families and lots of things. So they've got a lot of big problems with the sport at the moment, and I wouldn't want to be 21 in the sport right now, that's for sure.
It's really all that serious. We could literally have a massive upheaval in terms of what people think about, or how we go about Grand Prix racing from here on. When would you see that? I mean, that's a bit of a crystal ball question, I know, Mark. But is there anything on the horizon where you think there's a deadline before that has to be wrapped up?
Well, obviously, every week that goes past doesn't help anybody, because we're getting closer to an O10 championship. So I think there'll be something. I don't see. In the next 2 weeks, I think that we'll have I think the T-junction will be met, and the turn will be made by both of the powers, and the powers are obviously the governing body, and then the teams. So I think in the next 2 weeks we'll find out where we're all going, and if I'm driving next year in what championship.
Jeez, and as you say, to drop a budget from, what was it, 20 million to 40, that's significant, isn't it? You can't just, as you say, click your fingers and have that happen overnight.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams like Braun who, for them, that's very attractive. There is several teams that are very keen on trying to control costs going forward, but their position is they are with Ferrari and Toyota. They are with the big teams like McLaren, Ferrari, and Toyota, because the position that Ferrari, Toyota, and McLaren have taken is one that is also very aggressive in terms of controlling costs going forward, because they're not sitting back saying we want to spend, tens and hundreds of millions every year, for the next 10 years, because we can't. We know that. So this is a template that we think we can do for the next 3 or 4 years to help the sport, to help the teams try and stay together and continue to put on a good show as the best teams, as the best manufacturers and the best drivers. This is what we can do. So Braun are on board with that. So it goes to show you that they're not against a budget cap. They're just trying to do it in a way which, for Red Bull to get rid of 300 people, it's going to cost you well over 25 million quid legally to get rid of them. So it's not that easy to do it overnight.
And as you say, the repercussions aren't just for the race cars; it's everyone that's involved in the whole business that is Formula One.
Oh,
isn't
that's
it?
right. Like Flavio says, these kids have got to go. They've got families, they've got kids, they go to school. You just cannot, just come in and wheel the sword around. We need to look at it a bit more of a planned process. So it's getting deep, and I hope that they find a solution. But to be honest, I'm not very optimistic.
Mark, I guess on that same subject, with things like when we've seen this year the KERS, the recovery system come in, how much, a team's not necessarily forced, but is there an implication that if you don't go down that path, because obviously that in itself, developing that technology is a huge cost, isn't it?
Yeah, the KERS has been a joke this year. It was only one team that wanted it, and that was BMW. Every other team before the season wanted to try and ban it, really, and they needed to be unanimous on that position, and unfortunately there was one team that did want it, and that was BMW, who since several races just gone by haven't used it at all. So you're right, it's cost a lot of money. It's turned out to be something that the public don't massively understand, because it's not that easy to explain. It was supposed to be about going green and doing stuff for the environment, which clearly that hasn't worked. It's not the message that's supposed to happen. So that's not one of the governing body's greatest decisions in terms of how that's worked. So, and a KERS car hasn't won a race this year, and so that decision did cost a lot of money, and not to mention it's a very dangerous unit. It's not the safest unit in the world to work with,
really?
And you get these batteries that run away on you, and the stuff that's inside them, Anyway, you can get bored on batteries, but it's pretty dangerous stuff.
Jeez, as you say, mate, there's so many things to consider, and it's one of the great challenges that the governing body and the teams obviously have to try and limit those costs, and because obviously it's the sustainability that's we all need for Formula One, as you say, to go forward into the future. Mark, just one thing quickly. This is off Formula One subject a little bit, but the Mark Webber Challenge, that's all going well for you?
We're not doing it anymore at the moment. Having a year off this year.
Yep.
I decided even before, obviously people think it's because I had a crash and I've called it off. It wasn't like that. A lot of the contracts were up at the end of 2008, which made perfect sense to not have it at the moment. Also, I didn't want the event to take a backward step in terms of I think the best event we had was the last event, which is how I wanted it to be. I didn't want the event to start to suffer in terms of the partners that we had over the period, whether it was with the Telstras and of course the Tasmanian government, Tourism Tas. We had so many consistent people that were fantastic with us. Europcar, we had so many supporters, and even they're starting to feel a squeeze out there at the moment. So we decided to it was a good time to not have it at the moment, and I'll do something again in the future for sure. But the event was I was very proud with how the event went, and the amount of inspirational people that we had that did it was something I'll never forget.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, as I said, all of Australia supports you, and we wish you all the very best for the British Grand Prix this weekend. I'm sure you do a fantastic job, and I just want to thank you very much for spending some time with us this morning and joining us on the 4BC Motoring Show. I really appreciate it.
No problems.
Thanks, Mark.